Welcome to the second channel. This week I worked on what will become the next video on the main channel. I'm shooting for a release date of Valentine's Day. This is your last chance to click off before spoilers. The next video is going to be on Rescue Hedgehog. I tried to make this video last year, but I ran into technical and scheduling problems. The schedule is not something we gotta worry about. I'm trying to make the correct amount of time, but the technical issues which held it back are very fascinating to me. I made a giant spreadsheet of all the possible combinations and then took those combinations and then made an output. But the way that I made the spreadsheet is wrong in a very interesting way. I used the semantic search on the wiki in order to pull cards that were in these categories. So I had a semantic search for outputting all the level 1 through 3 normal monsters one at a time, and then I had them imported into the spreadsheet in a list because it was reading the table and it was taking all the data. I thought that because it's using a function on the wiki and it's importing the data, that it would help it to be future-proofed. But boy, was this the wrong call to make. This year I come back, I open up the spreadsheet, nothing. Syntax is obviously wrong, and I thought it was better to just start over than try to fix it, which is probably the right call because there were a lot of problems surfacing with the old method, and it was just a really inelegant way of trying to deal with the problems. I got an excerpt from the script that would have been at the end of the video last year or possibly on a second channel video explaining some of the shortcomings of my methodology, also to be hosted here, but I guess it sort of worked its way out. The crux of the problem really was getting the right cards and pairing them up, and I was getting cards that shouldn't be there for various reasons. So, here's the excerpt. So, the spreadsheet is not perfect, and I did not even realize this at the time, but the semantic search option for cannot be special summoned from the deck is not inclusive of the condition cannot be special summoned in general. So the following cards should also be blacklisted, but it does not really matter. Usually because there are alternatives available, I think. Keep in mind, these handy charts are about the existence of a combination, so any two valid partners result in a check mark. Not that all monsters that meet those requirements are considered valid matches. Here is the list and a very brief explanation for each. Bonds alone, level 1 Earth Fairy, possibly not even allowed, but doesn't matter. Cloudy and Ghost Fog, level 1 Water Fiend, not allowed, but Blue Duston exists as an alternative. Kinkabyo, level 1 Dark Beast Spirit, not allowed. Blackwing, Blizzard of the Far North, level 2 Dark Winged Beast, not allowed. Card D, level 2 Earth Machine, not allowed. Yatagarasu, level 2 Wind Winged Beast Spirit. Other targets are available in that slot. Ape Magician, level 3 Dark Beast. Other targets are available. Inaba White Rabbit, level 3 Earth Beast Spirit. Other targets are available. Otohime, level 3 Light Fairy Spirit. Other targets are available. And this is the point, no longer quoting from the script, that I realized that in real time, that there was a much deeper issue with the way that I went about the list. I fixed it this time, but the problem that I was running into is that I had not properly filtered out extra deck and ritual monsters. And I didn't even realize this at the time, So it was pulling a few low-level ritual monsters and a few low-level synchro monsters. I don't think it was pulling any Xyzs or Link monsters because of the way the wiki works, where those don't have level, they have rank and Link rating respectively. The way the API works is a little bit differently, and I think the API was pulling Xyz monsters at one point unintentionally. Anyway, that was a big problem that I had not realized. It was also pulling fusions, low-level fusions, but there's not a lot of those either. So here's that moment in real time that I realized while writing the script. Oh no, I found a bigger problem, that ritual and extra deck monsters are included in the list for some reason. I know the reason. I didn't filter properly. I didn't plan very well. Currently, this is not a problem, as there are not ritual or extra deck effect monsters which have a vanilla dance partner with the same type, level, and attribute, where there are no other candidates for the effect monster. Lot of very particular language right there. This may change in the future if a level 1 Dark Beast Warrior normal monster is printed, since Bouillabaisse de Novi is a ritual monster. The same goes for Zapper Shrimp as well. If a level 2 Light Fish normal monster is printed, then we'll run into a problem. And, by the way, this means that Golden Flying Fish is no longer the loneliest monster in Yu-Gi-Oh! I think. Finally, because of Tatsunoko, if a level 3 Water Worm normal monster is printed, worms still do not get on the board, since the Synchro monster is not a valid target. Not to be dramatic, but I have labeled this sort of future problem as unexploded ordnance. I tried to blacklist specifically ritual, synchro, and fusion monsters from the semantic search, but ran into a syntax error. Probably another revision for V5. And to clarify, I've gone through 5 different spreadsheets, each one being a little bit better than the last, but not significantly. Starting over was the right call. Just use the API, use their card type, and type in this case means, normal or effect monster. It doesn't mean the beast or beast warrior part. That's actually labeled as race in the code, which I understand why. It's a technical thing, which is fine. I'm not upset about that. But if you are reading the code that I will probably post along with the video, that's why it's labeled differently in that part. And, oh man, there were just a lot of little niche things, like it was filtering out normal pendulum monsters because it wasn't matching exactly. So I had to change it up a little bit so that it was like normal included in the type, but not specifically normal monsters. So that included other abilities. Tuner, Pendulum, I think were the only 2 relevant for that. It was also filtering out like Union effect monsters and some other problems with that. And then it wasn't filtering out properly ritual effect monsters, which is another problem. But don't worry about it. I did a lot of troubleshooting to try to get it into a good place, and you'll see in the main video where I got to. I say like 99% confidence at some point in the earlier script, and I think 99% accuracy is probably still pretty close. So a lot of cards. And I think the hit-miss ratio is pretty high. Anyway, back to the script. I could possibly blacklist the individual monsters, but 1, that is not future-proof, and 2, there is a limit to how long a request you can type into the semantic search, as well as it not liking long blacklists. That is so true. Just using the wiki is a bad strategy when the API exists, and I ran into problems that I didn't even know exist. Like if you try to go to, I want to say the 11th page, so offset of 5,500 on the wiki. So if you, for instance, wanted to see all the monsters in the game, and then you go to the monster page, and then you just keep display 500 per page, and then hit next page, next page, next page, next page, it just loops back to the first. You can't see them all. And that's just a problem that you don't encounter. And there's a whole bunch of little things like that. And it was the right call to just take it all out. Sometimes it feels like not a lot of change is seen on the surface, and it reminds me of like coelacanths or alligators, where their species is millions of years old, but they look pretty much the same as their ancestors, at least on the surface. But then when you take their DNA and you start doing some comparison, you see that there actually has been a lot of different genetic changes over time. I think it might be because they're at like a local maximum and they've been in a pretty stable environment, and a topic for a different day. But I feel like that's the same idea, where it doesn't look like anything has changed, but boy, has there been some changes beneath the surface. I even say boy next in the script. I go off on a tangent and start talking about the semantic search, but I do not recommend it for anything other than just finding like categories of cards. One of the benefits of the semantic search in the wiki is that you can find very specific restrictions. So like, cannot be special summoned from the main deck is a very specific restriction that might not crop up in all the card texts if you're using the API, but you get a better hit ratio on the wiki specifically. Anyway, back to the script. Boy, semantic search is hard. I might bump that confidence number down to 95%, but you know, too late in the production cycle to stop. The train can't stop, nor slow down. That's where you're wrong, buddy. The train can take a 1-year moratorium, which was not intentional, but it ended up being the right call. There was just scheduling conflicts and difficulty on the production end. I think if I made this video last year, instead of giving it more time, it would be a significantly worse product. I think that the route that I'm going down is a large improvement to the quality. I've learned so much, but let's still give a little bit of explanation towards where my mindset was last year. The bulk of this list is still correct, but I think I already read that part. But I think I'm no longer comfortable making an explanation on how the semantic search works. So here are the cliff notes. The spreadsheet references a page on the wiki, which is a custom semantic search. In the left box, you put your conditions, and the syntax is documented on this page in the wiki. Why didn't I put a link in the script? I have no idea where that is now. Or, alternatively, you can find a card or category of cards with that characteristic and copy-paste. The right box is the instructions for how you want the responses outputted, and you can find these criteria on the formatting page, or if you look at any table in the wiki. This list was imported into the spreadsheet, and I ended up having to filter results to remove the tokens. I ended up doing that with the simple, easy way of excluding words which contain the word token in their name, and that seemed to work fine. The other wiki does not list tokens, but does include Rush dual cards, and this is in reference to, I was using the Yu-Gi-Oh! Wiki. That's the one that uses the tokens in their semantic search, and the Yu-Gi Wiki, the other wiki, the Fandom Wiki, I think is what it might be. That one uses the Rush duels, and it makes it more difficult. After the list was filtered, I made a column to represent the type attribute combination for each monster, then reference that list with a comparison of all the combinations, then reference the appropriate dance partners, which was finally used to make the list of all the valid combinations. And the output is probably pretty accurate still. There might be a couple cards that shouldn't be on there, but it's also ugly. I made better graphics. Whew. If you want to improve the list, I encourage you to do so. Don't do it this way. Just go through the API process. There's definitely room for a V5. Oh man, no. Cut it down. Go back to the ground level. Start over. You know how to do this, but hindsight is always 2020. I've since watched Neon Genesis Evangelion. Oh, I forgot. This is a little part that's specifically for this video. This is something that I typed, this year in reference. So I've since watched Neon Genesis Evangelion. So now I can make a reference to the Schopenhauer Hedgehog's Dilemma, which is featured in the show. There's a song called Hedgehog's Dilemma. There's an episode called Hedgehog's Dilemma. I'm not going to go into detail about it now. I possibly recommend Neon Genesis Evangelion. I don't really know. It's not for everyone. I enjoyed it. I thought it was really interesting. Soft recommendation here. Because this is what you came to the second channel to get distracted, go on tangents, and talk about anime, of course. Man, this is the kind of stuff that you gotta usually pay into a Patreon to get. But here it's free. But obviously this is also why I can't put this on the main channel, because man, production value is not great and I'm just distracted. But you do get some unfiltered looks at some of the creation process, so your mileage may vary. No one's forcing you to watch this, which I think is something that I need to remember. Anyway, Neon Genesis Evangelion Hedgehog's Dilemma. I think that's cute. Put it into the script. There were also a bunch of new cards which were printed, and a couple new combos opened up. I think I added like 4 new partners, 4 new valid combinations ended up changing, I want to say. And then the very fun part is now I get to talk about Decoy. And this is a custom one-of-a-kind card, meaning that Otani is the only person on the entire planet that can pull off this combo. Specifically with Decoy, since it's a level 1 light beast, he can pull out some of the effect monsters with Rescue Hedgehog. He's the only one that's allowed to use this combo. And I think that's really cute. It's also a moment of love between a man and his dog, which is very cute. And I think it's fitting because, it's Valentine's Day. But it's also like an anime Kaiba moment where I'm the only one that has these cards. I'm the only one that can pull off this combo. It's not exactly, fusion summoning Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon with the only 3 Blue Eyes White Dragon known to exist, but that's an only Kaiba can do sort of thing. It's also not a great idea. Fusion summoning going -3, get your big beat stick out, and then they hit it with a dimensional prison, has no inherent protection. Man, the fusion summon put all my eggs in one basket. But that's aside from the point. Anyway, it's been a week of tearing things down and making some progress, getting to revisit ideas, and a lot of refinement. It's, I don't know, blast furnace purifying iron, I guess. But it's been a pretty good week. Made progress. Really hoping to get this video out this week. Or not this week, this year. I will delay it if I can't finish. If I'm just short of the finish line. And that's okay. But I am getting it out this year.